business leaders and surgeons and barristers. I see women who are going to win elections and science competitions and arts awards. Do not be afraid to fail. We can
Hello there, and welcome all to another talk time with Tiff Talks. This talk topic has formulated over time, and although Shay and I generally talk about bits and pieces of today's topic, I don't think there's ever been a talk time or a show truly dedicated to this talk topic or the series that we're presenting to you guys across the next 3 weeks, which is entitled From Selfless to Selfish. And today, in talking about lethal loyalty, it is another taboo topic that we oftentimes see in Black and Brown communities that we discuss here. This place or this platform was created as a safe haven to be able to tackle those taboo topics and really bring visibility and awareness to the uncomfortability associated with those things, So definitely, get ready, get prepared. It's going to be uncomfortable, but in the end, it's going to be a beam of light and great. We encourage you to stick around for the conversation. Also engage in the conversation in the comment section below and set your reminders to join us on Tuesday for a live discussion for Talk Tuesdays. So for those of you that are new to this platform, my name is Tiffany. I am a licensed clinical social worker by trade and a community activist at heart. And as I mentioned, this platform was created as a safe haven, and we're here to jump right into it and get started. I'm going to hand it over to this beautiful lady to my left so that she can also introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I am Kenshay S. I am the executive talk partner for Tiff Talks. I am a community activist at heart, but my current position, I am an executive staff director for church. And we get the chance to give back to the community from the spiritual aspect and fulfilling those things that we can. But being a part of this platform has allowed me to get resources that I can also pass to the community near the churches that I work for. So today, like she already said, we talk about this topic on a regular basis, but I don't think we've ever been this direct on speaking on this topic. So you guys stay tuned, grab a notepad, because I'm sure we're going to drop some gems for y'all today. Without further ado.
So today's talk topic is lethal loyalty. And those that know me know that I am a screen t-shirt type of girl. Like, I will go here, there, and everywhere in a good screen t-shirt. And one of my favorite screen tees that Shay and I created is the one maroon screen t-shirt that says very clearly, "My worth is non-negotiable," with an exclamation point. And just being transparent, this is a frequently worn t-shirt. I wear it pretty often, but I don't think I've ever responded to any one person that had something to say about my screen t-shirt until just recently. So just this past week, I'd gone to the bank doing some running around, and I went into the bank and just minding my own business. And the gentleman in front of me made note of my t-shirt. So he reads my t-shirt and he says, "Oh, my worth is non-negotiable." And I immediately said, "Damn right." Now, okay, this is an elderly man, at least twice my senior. I was raised right, good foundation. I respect my elders, but I honestly wasn't anticipating for it to come out that way. That was just my immediate response. So of course we get into this dialogue back and forth, and I, proceed to apologize, and he's like, "No, don't apologize." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then he says, "Well, what is negotiable?" And for me, I took a minute, maybe two. And I was like, at this age, nothing. And he was like, "Oh, okay." So we talked for a few minutes while we're waiting on the teller and things like that. But when I got back in the car And I just kind of processed that encounter with this gentleman, a complete stranger. And my response to that, I really kind of like dived into how important or how much my own self-worth has weighed on my response to this season and this season of transition from selfless to selfish. And I think like the best kind of place to begin this discussion is to talk about those things, to discuss, worth, and how does one feel just asking themselves their own self-worth or the lack thereof wavers on their perception of selfless and selfish.
So with that, I would have to say, not every day do I feel, well, that I know particular that day what my worth is. Sometimes it gets the best of me to not know, but it's an ever evolving journey with your self-worth. And with that, the transition from selfless to selfish, I would consider you have to know your worth first, because you can't pour into others if you're not feeling it yourself. So with that, I had an encounter with somebody and they asked a question on self-worth, and I was like, interesting. At that present time, I was battling depression, and I was like, yeah, I have it, but I give so much to others that it overshadows what it truly means to me to gather what my self-worth was at that point in time. So because I was giving to everybody else, I had no time to focus on myself. So if I'm not the best version of me, I can't give that out. But to y'all, it might look like I'm giving y'all my best and making it, best for y'all, but it's not okay with me. So, but that's just something that I battle with, and that's how I go from. And then just reserving the right and to know that it's a journey. You won't know your self-worth, in its totality. It's a journey. It evolves every day.
Yeah. And I think like we talk so very frequently about self-worth and self-worth really truly being like the groundwork, the framework of everything that you as a person entails. And I would have to say, like, I've had some of those same and similar experiences. Like I can remember experiencing postpartum after having my 16-year-old. And it was a very like tumultuous time for me, having part ways with her biological father and being at a place where it impacted me, emotionally, and it impacted me like mentally, where I wasn't truly prepared for at that age to be able to address or even know what was going on around me. But also like I can remember like 2016, 2017, like being in a very kind of, toxic relationship, a toxic relationship that, I now know is toxic, but being in a relationship that I thought was going to be, my end all be all, if that makes sense. Like, I think every woman at least has that infamous relationship. And that was my infamous relationships, like no regrets. I learned a lot, I took a lot from that relationship, and we'll definitely get into that in our next episode. But, those were times where I felt less of myself. Like I felt so unworthy. And it was kind of like what you just expressed. Like I was giving so much of myself. I was giving so much to other people that I didn't have the capacity to see that I wasn't giving to myself. And because I wasn't giving to myself, I was just like functioning, I didn't fall short of responsibilities. I didn't fall short of like my day-to-day, but behind the scenes, I was struggling. And I can admit that now, like I was struggling. I was not in a good place. I was in a very dark place. But, that piece of when I was very selfless and now knowing what it means to transition to selfish, I can say like where I felt the most worthy was, when my now husband, who was then my friend, really kind of, went into this situationship of like companionship, like getting out of that, toxic relationship. What I really crave was companionship. And I will always like give him his flowers and his due credit that when I say he, targeted and built me back from the ground up. He built me back from the ground up. He made me feel worthy. And by him seeing my worth, it made me even tap into deeper my own worth. Right. And I felt like if he could love me at my lowest points, then I needed to be person enough to love myself at those points. And I think for me, that's when I really initially kind of transitioned from this selfless to selfish. And like you said, over time and different seasons of my life, I've evolved and I've had moments where I felt, less worthy or more worthy, kind of just depending on what's going on. But it is a process. Like, it's not something that you're going to wake up and feel good about every day. And one thing that I know that I did when I was unworthy or feeling unworthy is I would oftentimes compromise myself. I would compromise myself. I would compromise my boundaries to accommodate other people. Versus in this selfish stage, I've gotten to the point where it's like, I can be tolerable. I can compromise, but there's some things that I'm not willing to compromise on. And just like that conversation with the guy, it was like, at this age, nothing. I can maybe bend a little bit, but I'm a bounce back type, Yeah. And I think during this entire kind of transition, one thing that I really learned a lot about was my own discovery of self-actualization. And for me as a social worker, that's something that was introduced to me in my MSW program, like understanding Maslow's hierarchy of needs and knowing that, these hierarchy of needs all build up on each other. And self-actualization is the highest of the high. You can't achieve those things without having build up on those other needs and those desires. And, for me, I found that when I, was looking at the outline and started kind of putting pieces together, even though I knew or learned of that back in my program, that's something that I'm still learning today. Yeah. And I'm still learning the power of that today. And even books that I've read have fed into that, of being able to understand like the concept of fulfillment, the concept of being able to understand one's own potential and allow that fulfillment and potential to be your driving force, to be able to be okay with being selfish. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, my next kind of talking point would be, what would you say has been your defining moment of self-actualization, and that moment that really helped you to transition to this selfish love for yourself?
So ironically, and it would have to be with the passing of my mom. At that time, I spoke a little bit about it, was depression. But after I'm thinking, you're a superwoman for everybody. You damn sure can be superwoman for yourself. So that was my driving force, because I felt like with me pouring into everybody, not looking to be poured back into, I wanted to be poured back into. But when that didn't happen, because you got to remember, everybody don't move how you move. Everybody do not operate how you operate. So what I was giving out, I wasn't getting in return, but at the same time, I wasn't looking for it. So then at that time, that's when depression set in. And then I found myself giving myself that pep talk, like, get your ass up, do what you need to do for you. If you can be there for everybody else, then you can damn sure do it for yourself. So I taught, like she said, with the self-actualization, that's that moment at that point when I believe that I pretty much, that transition process you talked about. That's when I became I was selfless and it turned selfish, because you notice, and people, you really notice how to act or move when people don't do something that you do for them. Not saying that I do stuff for that, but at the same time, I would have wanted something in return. But I had to remember, can't nobody love you like you can love yourself. Can't nobody do for you like you can do for yourself. So pick yourself up and do what you need to do for you. Because if they not gonna do it, you want to do it for yourself anyway. But in order for me to pour into somebody else, I had to pour into myself, because I can't give from an empty cup. So you got to cater to yourself first, and then go out.
That was good.
So that's why I am with that.
That was good. And one thing, like, as you were talking, I was thinking about a conversation that we may have had like a week or so ago. And you said, like, very transparently, Tiffany, don't give what you can't get back. And I think so often, like, we as human beings, we as women, as super women,
Mm-hmm.
we so freely give without the intention or the expectation of getting back.
Mm-hmm.
But the actualization of it, the self-actualization of it, is you can't give what you don't get back.
Mm-hmm.
So, or what you can't receive back.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to, like you said, prioritize yourself, give
Mm-hmm.
yourself that that pep talk, and saying like, hey, I can't expect someone else to love me better than I love myself,
Mm-hmm.
and model that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on a
Truly
daily basis. Like, you have to walk it in order for you to even seek it, if that makes sense. I think one thing that I've really kind of learned, and I'm trying to truly practice in this season, is understanding that I am deserving of taking up space.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a big personality, but even with the big personality, I do a very good job of playing my role. Like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I want to come and do what I'm supposed to do and play my role, play my position, and move therefore.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be so very open with giving unsolicited advice, unsolicited help, unsolicited, you know, love, that I would feel a certain type of way when I didn't get it back. But that's because I was too busy fitting in spaces instead of taking up space.
That's good.
And I mean, one thing I was thinking about, like, so we just recently got a bigger family vehicle. And in this new family vehicle, like, I'm not used to driving a huge car. But what I learned is, in driving a huge car, you can't fit everywhere. Like, you got to park further down the road because you don't want your car to be hit, or in my case, I don't want to hit nobody else's car. Right. So there's certain, when you have such a big personality, when you have such a big heart, when you have such a big being, then you have to understand that you can't fit in spaces. You have to learn to take up space. And that is taking up space and showing up for yourself first. I think another thing that I learned is that so often when we talk about love and self-love, we talk about love being, you know, action. But in love being action, love starts with how you show up for yourself. And that was the important piece for me in understanding that I'm worthy enough to take up space, because I have to show up for myself. And truly, if I'm meant to be there, then I will fit there and won't have to find a way to fit in there. So, you know, these things, I think, has truly like aided in my own self-actualization, and also just being at a point where I had to check myself on and be checked and be accountable of that lethal loyalty. And I mean, don't get it twisted. It's not this complex definition or this complex term. It is what it is. I said what I said, just like the meme said, and I'm gonna stand on it. Lethal loyalty is just what it is. It's those people, places, or things that you are committed to, that you find that you take up space where you don't fit. And where I feel that I've experienced this is not just in my own like personal life, but at work. You know, at social gatherings, in social settings, where, you know, I may have been loyal to a person, may have been loyal to a place, may have been loyal to an event that wasn't necessarily loyal to me. And it could have been for convenience, it could have been for commitment, it could have been for whatever, familiarity. But and on this journey of transitioning from selfless to selfish, I had to check myself and hold myself accountable, and understanding like, I'm choosing to show up. And if I'm choosing to show up, then let me choose up to show up as my whole self and take up space of the space that I deserve.
So I think, so as I'm listening, y'all, because she already answered my question that I was about to ask her, but I'm going to ask her so she can answer it in a slower tone for you guys. But you said about don't try to fit in where you don't fit in, right? So I was thinking what I said in my head, that don't try to fit in that moment, be that moment. So
I love that.
Don't try to fit into the space, be the space. Because you got to realize you are that one. And again, that goes from being selfless to selfish. Selfish is not all that bad. And sometimes being about self, I had to realize that being for self is not a bad thing, because for a long time, I thought that with me doing all of this for somebody else, that I did a disservice to myself because I was too busy focused on other people's things. That what's the TikTok that's going around about the best friend post? Your BS is my BS or whatever it say. But in actuality, you can't pick up everybody's problems because then you got toxic water in that cup.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure that you're good and you have a great foundation.
Yeah.
Know your worth.
Yeah.
Before you start taking on everybody else.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Be the moment. Don't fit in.
That's true. That's true. And I think like when we talk about like lethal loyalty, I know another place that I see it so often is in like generational curse and trauma. And like just like a very common but wasn't uncommon that is all too common in Black and brown communities is that we live in this, oh, that's just them, mentality. And when you live in that, oh, that's just them mentality, displacing and ownership, you take ownership for other people's things. And so often when that generational curse is passed down, you live in that dirt to the point where you don't even know how to claw yourself out of it. And you oftentimes don't understand the impact that toxicity has on your own interactions, your own relationships, your own exchanges that oftentimes may not have anything to do with you. Just like you said, if you taking on other people's toxic water, other people's BS, that's going to impact how you engage with that person. That person may not have done nothing to you, but just because they did something to so-and-so, then now it's your issue. You're bearing the burden of that. And I think, when we come down to giving ourselves roses first, shifting our perspective a little bit and taking ownership for our own self-worth, for our own self-actualization, that is where we thrive. Because you set the tone for that.
I agree.
I will have to say, like, in this transition, I've had to unlearn a lot of behaviors. I've had to, there has been very many growing pains. I consider myself to be an awesome communicator. And because I am a good communicator, I struggle. Thorough. I'm very thorough. I struggle when communication is not reciprocated. I consider myself to be inclusive. Like I thrive in community. I live in community. I uphold community, but everybody doesn't have that same perspective or have that same value or attach that same value that I do. So I had to unlearn some of these, behaviors, some of these associations with things because I was only hindering and harming myself. I think what's a conversation that my husband and I was just recently having about expectations, and that oftentimes when you set love for someone, you set an expectation for them. Versus when you set a desire, you give them the option, you give them the opportunity. That was good. Which is a better standpoint. When you set a desire for someone, you give them the opportunity to fulfill it. So it's not just about like love. The love starts with self-love. It's about me having a desire for this to happen, not having the love of an expectation for it to happen. So what would you say has been a lesson that you may have had to unlearn in this process of transitioning from selfless to selfish?
I would have to say, and I continue to say, that's taking on everybody else's stuff. So I had to unlearn how to be so selfless that I'm not able to be a little bit selfish. I didn't know my worth at the time because I was too busy trying to figure out everybody else. So having to unlearn that is not a bad thing, but in order for me to give the best version of me, and I've said it before, then I have to work on me. Know my self-worth, walk that journey, be confident in who I am in order for me to truly show my gifts and my talents to everybody else. I mean, I play a good role, but it gets tiresome, so being that for everybody is what I had to try and unlearn. Like that's what my self-care journey has also taught me. If y'all ain't practicing that, y'all really should. That's when I tell y'all it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. That's when you can look at yourself and really just know, you know, your worth. Mm-hmm. You have that time to think about it. Yeah. You have the time to focus on yourself. Mm-hmm. So once you focus on yourself, get yourself together, then you can become both selfless and selfish. Mm. But in order to become selfless, you have to be selfish first.
That's good. Like being able to have a healthy balance. Mm-hmm. I like that. Mm-hmm. And I think what you kind of touched on and like alluded to was being able to prioritize in those moments when it comes down to practicing self-care is like self-awareness, mm-hmm. You know, reflection, things of that sort, and understanding that truly it's an inside job. I think for me, I have had to truly like do away with the ideal of perfection, mm-hmm. And focus on not being perfect or it not being perfect, but being whole. So for me, my mantra that I say every morning when I sage and when I use my Plano stick is I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. Mm-hmm. And because I'm beautifully and wonderfully made, I have the power not to be perfect, but to behold. And to behold, that is the goal. So being able to say, you know, every morning that it's not about me having a perfect day. Mm-hmm. It's about me having a whole day. It's not about me showing up perfect. It's about me showing up whole. Is, you know, that's something that I carry with me. And that's something that I practice in this season. Mm-hmm. And by saying it to myself on a daily basis, it stays on the forefront of my mind. Yeah. It's not always pretty. I mean, I didn't woke up and, you know, forgot to sage and was like, oh no, I need to go back, you know, just so that I can plant that in my mind, plant that in my being, plant that in my heart and in my spirit and carry it with me, but walk in it just the same.
I agree. So we're going to talk, speaking on that, we're going to talk about self-discovery. Mm-hmm. Which is knowing the inner you. At what point in your life do you believe that self-discovery has become a vital part? Self-worth and self-discovery can play hand in hand, mm-hmm. but it's definitely a difference. Yeah. So when would you say that it became a vital part in your life? What instance made it very discoverable to you?
You know, I think so as a woman, number one, mm-hmm. and then as a mom with girls, I feel that I have like a certain level of responsibility. Mm-hmm. And that level of responsibility for me is being able to practice and model the things I want to see in my girls. Mm-hmm. And I can say like, when I first had my 16-year-old, I was not on the level of self-discovery, of self-worth. Like I was living at level best, the best that I can do. But when I became a mom, that level of self-discovery and wanting to have those reflections, wanting to be able to practice self-actualization, wanting to be able to understand my own worth, because I needed to understand my worth to let her know and make her aware of her worth. And for me, I think though that has been like the most vital periods in my life. Mm-hmm. Is one thing to be able to like, you know, express to my daughter, you're so, you know, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're kind, but I need to show her what that looks like. And for me to be able to model that, that is something that I feel that I have taken on responsibility as her mother, but also as a woman. And I think she's very fortunate to have so many like strong women that model those things for her. I can't be amazed at how confident she's in her own journey of self-care, her own journey of self-discovery. And I look forward to, you know, seeing how it evolves for her too.
All right, that's good.
I think another thing for me when it comes down to like self-discovery has been a lot about like perceptions. And I know we kind of touched on this a little bit. And truly, like when it comes down to perception, sometimes when we address like the selfless to selfish, it may just be a shift of perception.
Right.
I mean, I'm a firm believer in that we're all entitled to our own feelings, and now we're all entitled to our own perception of things and what may or may not be. But sometimes it's about being able to shift that to the point where you seek out joy, like seek out joy in the junk. Be able to find the beauty in the ashes and be able to find self-fulfillment. Because when it comes down to, self-actualization, there are three components, spirituality, fulfillment, and contentment. And those are all things I think we all truly desire. It's just sometimes we don't seek those things, we overlook them. And if you are at a point in your life where all you see is the bad, all you see is the ashes, all you see is the junk, then it's an issue with your perception. Yes, it may rain cats and dogs. Topic. Yes, it may rain cats and dogs, but in it raining cats and dogs, I just think about my grass that then almost died that needed that watering. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, you may, be in a position at work that you're not comfortable with or you're not happy with. But what about the experience that you're getting? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important to be able to always zone in or seek those three things when we talk about transitioning from selfless to selfish. Seek out spirituality. Like seek out, contentment, seek out fulfillment, because those are things that we all desire. We just have to know how to seek them and be purposeful and intentional in that,
being intentional. That's another thing in this stage in life, is being intentional, which is very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think I shared during our last kind of talk time when we were doing a recap of season 4 that in this season I am like purposely forcing myself to be intentional with my own self-care, because I haven't always been good at it, and I'm good at like finding, the good moments, but being able to say, okay, I'm going to set aside this day to take care of Tiffany. And I'm not going to give what I'm not able to get from myself. So I think, those are things that we have to be like, we have to be intentional about those things. We have to be, we have to seek the joy. We have to meddle through the junk, meddle through the ashes in order to seek the beauty in things. So we've had like a really good talk time.
We did.
We've tackled a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of topics, as you would say. And I mean, one thing, like the feedback that we got from the talk community when we like asked, what are you looking forward to, was they wanted to hear more from us. And I feel like this series, this journey that we're going on, that we're going into these next 3 weeks, is best coming from us, because we've lived it. Like we've been in positions where, we've made the position our problem, or we've taken on problems that weren't ours, and now getting to a point where we're like, okay, I need to value myself. I need to, do more than wear the t-shirt. I need to practice my, my worth being non-negotiable. And, I need to practice these things on an intentional basis. I think it's best that we share that journey and share that, that disclosure with you guys, because we never know who we can help.
Right. And we're always evolving. It's a lifetime, and we will forever be evolving. So with that, I'm gonna ask you the question, because I'm trying to ask a question before she asks a question. But from today's talk topic, now I know we covered a lot. Your testament from this particular talk time today. What is your testament?
So for me, if I had to sum everything up that we've talked about, and the takeaway that I would have for our community is be like to truly understand the power of being whole, the power of wholeness, but also the power of self-actualization. And it, brings me to a quote by Nelson Mandela, in understanding like I never lose. I either win or I learn. And when you address life with that perspective and understanding like you never lose. There's never a loss that you will experience. You win or you learn in hardship and toxicity and bad relationships and, you know, and lethal loyalty. Like, I think those things is something that can truly change your perspective, but also change your life.
That's good. So my testament and my takeaway was all of that. And then on top of that, I would have to say being for self does not make you selfish. Just take care of you. Remember, you got to have a solid foundation for anything. For a house to stand. If you got a leaky foundation, your house gonna crack. It ain't gonna last the 30 years that they promise you that it is. So you have to remember that in order to maintain or sustain life, you have to have your own foundation in order. So being for self is not a bad thing. It's just that you want to be able to offer the best of you. And you can't offer the best of you being selfless if you don't know how it is to be selfish and take care of yourself. Because remember, nobody can love you like you can love yourself. Nobody can do for you what you can do for yourself.
I love that.
So own your stuff.
Yes, I love that. That was good.
Yeah, this was a good talk time.
Good talk time. And I truly anticipate with this series, like it will get more in depth. I know this is probably going to be the most vulnerable season and series for me. And the topics that we have coming up. And I mean, I think it would be good as we welcome, talk partner Ken Parker and Jaden Brown to these discussions as well, because it's good to hear from other people's perspectives.
Different perspectives from the man, from the youth.
Yeah.
We want to give it to you guys all around. And that's why our leadership is so diverse. So.
Yes. Yeah. So that actually wraps up our structured talk times. I know we have a couple of announcements that are coming really, really soon. One being our Community Empower magazine. We actually wrapped our power photo shoot on Labor Day. Awesome shoot. I am so excited for the photography, but also the vibe that come along with it. Like when I say the features this time around, they were a whole vibe, they were a whole mood. They came ready. They came ready with their vibe and their mood, and you can see it in the photography. You can read it in their testaments. So I look forward to presenting that. I feel we also look forward to our Gold Sisters that I know you want to get some info about.
So we rescheduled the Gold Sisters, but it's still on.
We're
still want to give the ladies what they're asking for and what we desire to do. The Eventbrite is up. You are able to register. Let's remember, even if you are a seasoned member for Gold Sisters and you've already paid the subscription, you still need to register. So that way we'll know that you will be there, so we can do the ample amount of things that we need to do for you as well. Go on, book your seat, because like I said, we'll have virtual this year. I mean this season, but it's very limited in person. So you want to grab those seats. Not saying that the opportunity is greater either way, but it's going to be an awesome time either way. But if you guys would like a seat, please go on Eventbrite, register. And then we will follow up with you guys. But that event will happen on October the 8th. From 2 to 4. October the 8th from 2 to 4. We want you guys to register so we can accommodate everyone. We look forward to seeing you all, and keep talking. Ghost Sisters.
I mean, Ghost Sisters is always, I know this show, baby, but I enjoy Ghost Sisters just the same. Like-minded women coming together, like sharing in dialogue and discussion, but also very interactive activities. And the take homes that we have, like restocking the Gold Sisters bag is always like a good time for us. And what we give to continue and reinforce what we discuss. So I definitely encourage you guys to, like Shay said, go in, get them seats, get them now. There is an option to do a save the date reservation, where you say, okay, I'm marking this on my calendar and I may not have all of the money at one time to be able to register, but I know that I'm coming. Go ahead and do that, because that helps us to better prepare. A lot of what we present is handcrafted and handmade, with love. So we like to prepare for those things and not have to like scramble at the last minute.
Right.
So definitely plan and prepare and reserve and book your tickets. The last thing is continuing with this series. The next talk topic is going to be toxicity.
That's gonna be deep.
It's gonna be very deep. It's gonna be very deep, but it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And I think what Shay and I like pride ourselves on, and I know I'm speaking for both of us, is being able to initiate these conversations, like being able to initiate these talk topics that continue thereon. And like, you know, one of our supporters shared doing the recap, like we bring the secret sauce, like we want to initiate the topic so that you can continue to have it and grow from it.
Yeah.
So we look forward to the second episode of this series discussing toxicity, and it will be both she and I, as well as talk partner Kenneth Parker and talk partner Jaden Brown. So outside of that, we enjoyed you guys. We appreciate you for giving us the most precious thing that you have, and that is your time. We encourage you to remain connected. And by remaining connected, you can follow us here at She's 22 on JKC Podcast, which is our YouTube channel, but also on Instagram as well. When you go over to the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe and hit that little ringer button so we can remind you when we have all new episodes.
Yes.
Outside of that, you guys enjoy your Sunday afternoon. And as always, we encourage you to keep talking.